Okay, let us talk about Bevy. Bevy is a game engine built in Rust programming language, and it is basically working um, under the principle of ECS, entry, component, and system design pattern. So let's quickly check what is ECS. Um, Suppose this is the screen and I have enemies and I have a player here and I have lasers here. So in ECS systems, we consider each enemies as entities, and these entities can have um, different components. For example, speed. So this entity will have speed. Also, this entity also might can have speed. So the speed also can have for player as well. And laser also can have speed. So same component can be there in multiple entities. And if you want to add the movement of a player, we can just add it as a consider it as a system itself, uh, and add to the um, main app itself. So component is multiple um, kind of properties can have to multiple entities. So one component can be there for can be available for multiple entities. So let us quickly go to an app. So let me run this. So this is a player, this is an enemy, and we have a scoreboard too, and we have lasers. So yeah, so each is an entity, and each player is an entity, and player has a speed component. Also, laser has a speed component, and even the enemies has the speed component. So let us quickly walk through the code. As you can see, main is our uh, starting point for the REST program, and we are basically building an app, and we can add uh, multiple resources to the system, to the app. So first I'm just adding a screen, a blank screen, and also I'm describing adding a window descriptor, and there are a few other resources as well. And here we can also add systems. So systems are something like laser hit enemy. So that will be something like what will happen when a laser hit an enemy. So that process itself uh, we made it as a system, and the player movement we made it as another system. So that way we can manage the um, different functionalities or um, combine multiple activities into a system in a game. So let us see what is player. I just made this as a separate file. Here you can see we can add one of the Bevy proper functionality is we can build multiple systems and add it as a plugin, and that plugin can be added to the main app itself. So that is what we have seen adding here. So the player plugin which will handle all these systems. So this system has a player movement. So player movement is, yeah, here it's basically a function, and which is taking a resource, input keyboard resource. So whatever input is the keyboard, I think. So all the keyboard resources will be uh, accessed through this variable, and this is where we are querying the uh, entities with component player. So this query will return, it will look for all the world, game world, and look for the player, whatever entities having the player component. So this has a player component, obviously, and if we have another player, player 2, that will also have a player component. So how we are saying it has a player component? So that is when we spawn the player, we are adding a player component here. So this is the player spawn. So when we are here, we are spawning the player. So it will be add a startup stage. I think it will do as a first system itself onto the stage, game stage. So yeah, so when it is spawning the player, we are adding a player component here. So when we are creating the player movement system, we can actually query the components having the player component, and we can manipulate the position. So how we are getting the position? Position is through transform component. So transform component has translation to x to their coordinates, and we can manipulate it. So here we have a speed component also we added, and time step as well. So where we are getting the time step? Yeah, time step is here. Yeah, we are getting time step as well. Let me see what is actually time step. Yeah, timestamp is a constant. So in Rust, constant means it's a constant value. We can access it from anywhere. So yeah. So we are manipulating the position. The same way we are building different systems, and we have a fire system. So what it is doing is it is getting commands we need because we if we need to spawn a bundle of entities, then we need commands, and we need input from keyboard. Why we need input from keyboard? Because yeah, we are spawning it only when firing the laser, only when the key is pressed. So for that purpose we need the keyboard resource, and we have some material resources. This materials is something we created. So that is where um, this is the this is also a component, but this component uh, yeah, this component we made it from the assets. So we have a lot of assets, images here, enemies image, explosion image, laser image. So all these are stored in assets folder in the same in the same Rust project. So Bevy will automatically look for the asset folder and look for the file. So we have yeah, we define it as a constant, a Rust constant variable, and we are creating a structure. Basically this will be used as a component, and we are saying these variables are handled to a color material, so it will be a pointer to this image. How we are doing is we need to create this there is a setup system we created here in the main itself. So if you look at here, add setup system, so this is the setup. It's basically a function which actually takes commands. We need to spawn something or we need to add some resources to the system. So for that purpose we need the commands, and we have an asset server. So this is a resource BV is providing. So and we have assets color material as well. We need this as well in order to uh, make our materials, and we need the window as well. It's also a BV given resource. So res mute means we are taking this resource and we need it in a mutable as a mutable pointer, because we will be changing something on this windows. So yeah, we are taking the windows as get mute, and we are setting the position with this resolution x and y, uh, width and height. This is a vector 2, that means it's a two-dimensional array, and we are spawning two cameras. So for this purpose, yeah, we need the commands. Anything we need to spawn bundle means it is going to create some entities. So this is a BV given camera bundle, so we can use that. And this is a UI camera bundle. This will create the text screen text related displays, I believe. So yeah, once this is done, we can add our materials. So here is where we are using a Bevy material resource and adding it with our sprite, our image. So that for that we need the asset server, Bevy's asset server we passed here, and we are loading it with our images. So we got now we got three resources into our system, so we can make use of this material handles. So yeah, that is a high level, and here we are adding one another resource, window size. So window size is not a BV given. Here I simply added one structure with width and height, and I'm just using that. We can add any struct to uh, as a resource to our system, and we can make use of this as a resource. So when if we want to use this resource in any other system, we can just pass it with uh, as a parameter mute uh, windows res uh, this great less than and window size greater than. This way we can access any resources. So that is what overall. um, I'm actually started this with uh, this material, this video tutorial. So now I want to add the explosion. As of now, if you look here to my game, it's not exploding. I want the enemy to explode. So you'll see I imported the material he has given in his tutorial. So this is the material, and as you see, this has a lot of images in it. So we have to make it as a texture atlas. So let's see whether we can add it as a texture atlas. I already added this here, and so we added it in the materials, and uh, and now I need to add it here. So it's actually throwing an error, missing yeah field. Obviously, explosion material. Explosion material. Okay. Your texture atlas, we cannot change this to color. This was text. How did he manage to change this to?
Then what we're going to do here is when we do the we're going to add it, which is going to be our explosion to spawn. So it's a little level of indirection, but it's going to help a lot. The next things we need to do here is in the setup, now we need to build the new materials here, the explosion sprite. And so what we need to do here is add what is called a texture atlas. And that will allow to have our sprite sheets with all of the different elements. So the way we do
Okay, got it. We haven't used the nude materials. Was mute assets. We didn't pass this texture atlas to resource to the function. So yeah, this is gone now. What is this? Oh, yeah, it's a problem how two variables can be the same. So we need to rename this. Definitely. How he managed to do that? Okay, yeah, got it. He changed the name. Texture atlases, fine. And here, this should work. Yeah, yeah. Now we, yeah, again error is not satisfied. Trade bound Texas handle is not satisfied. Required because of the requirements of. So it's not needed. Okay, no. Dot into. Yeah, I cannot change this. I think uh, trade bond prelude text from is not be required because of the requirements of texture atlas from grid. No, it has to load first.
Do that with our set server with explosion.
Yeah, yeah, that is the only way it will work. Um, so texture atlas equals asset server. So asset server is the server which loads our uh, material sprites. So explosion sprite, we are loading it, and from grid texture atlas, comma. Yeah, now we need to see from grid, from grid. Yeah, from grid is a handle. I think this is a handle. Yeah, handle. So we can pass this as a first parameter, and we need a vec2. Vec2. Vec2 is okay. Vec2. Vec2 new 64. 64. It's a 64 grid, I believe, and next is column size 4 by 4. So I hope this should yeah, this is done. Now we can just add this here as a material. Text classes. Yeah, looks like it is still expected this. Oh, okay. Yeah, material start add. No. Um, Okay, looks like this is working. Okay, let me stop it here. Uh, then we will continue later. Thank you.